Hello and welcome back. Now today I'd like to talk about the effects of social media, television, and the aftermarket on our car culture. Now used to when the internet came around and forums came up, well, it was great because you could get information that you wanted or needed. You could easily obtain the knowledge that you needed for something that you didn't know. You could find car parts you couldn't find before. You could easily order parts from the aftermarket yourself and have access to almost everything you need. Now, what I'm here to talk about is the negative side effects of that, and it's been a lot more in the last several years I've been seeing, and it's real big in social media, television, the aftermarket. First of all, social media. Obviously we went over this before, but a little bit more this time is the negative effects of social media from Facebook groups and all that on the car culture. Now obviously I've talked about custom cars before and how a lot of times they are ridiculed even though they are great. Now again, I'm seeing this, it's a lot of hate, and a lot of people want to steer clear of this now because they took their time to build something and they're proud of it, and they want to show it off, and then they get ridiculed, they get laughed at, they get humiliated, even though it may be a very nicely done vehicle. They get hated. And I've seen a lot of this more in the C10 groups lately than I have anywhere else. It's a lot of Chevy on Chevy hate, believe it or not. But there's a very nice older truck, probably late 70s, early 80s, and it had the Lund accessories on it, which some of y'all may remember from way back when Lund made a bunch of accessories for trucks. They were just bolt-on parts. Well, I guess someone had found one of those, took a picture of it, and posted on a group. And keep in mind, these are bolt-on accessories. That means they could be easily unbolted and removed and look right back completely 100% stock again. So it's not a big deal. It wasn't chopped up, it was just bolt-on parts. Well, the hates grew so bad. People talking about, I wish it burned to the ground, horrible. I mean, they just, hated on it, even though in reality it was a bolt-on kit. You could unbolt all that stuff and look completely stock again. Two, whoever owned that truck took a lot of time and effort to take care of that truck because everything on that truck looked pretty well pristine, including the paint. So whoever owned it loved that truck, took care of that truck, and there's no reason to hate on that. But yet, there it was. And there's another custom which was built on the other side of Arkansas. They used, I believe, early 2000s model Chevy body, grafted, I want to say late 60s, 68, 72-ish front clip on it. I can't remember exactly now. The body work to graft it on there was amazing. The way they grafted everything together, made all the body lines blend together, was just a work of art, really, honestly. But the hate it got, everyone hated on it and hated on it. And it's ridiculous to hate on something like that, and most of these people that are hating it and dissing it probably couldn't do that kind of work if they tried. And the amount of work that they put into this truck was just amazing. It just looked completely great, honestly. Again, the body lines, the way they paint, I mean, the paint job, the body lines, the way everything, it just fit right and looked good. There's nothing wrong with that. And I mean, it's not like it was a waste of a truck. It was a later or earlier 2000s body, which are thousands of them in salvage yards. So I mean, it was a nice work of art, but yet it got hated on. And that's something that I've noticed in these groups. If you think outside of the box, a lot of times you get hated. You can't almost think on your own and do something different without getting hated. There's like just small certain things, like here's a box of things that they think are okay and they go with, and then but you can't think outside the box in a lot of these groups because you get hated on. And some people want to do something different than what is normally done. And a lot of it, if it's not a bolt-on kit, if you do body modifications, if you actually start cutting and welding, even if you do a great job, they hate on it. And it's kind of ridiculous because if you look back in the beginning days of hot roddings, you didn't have the aftermarket. You had to build it yourself. You had to make your own parts if you wanted something different. But when people do that now, a lot of times they're ridiculed. So basically it's kind of a, if you're not here, then we ridicule you. It's kind of ridiculous. And the other thing is on social media, as I've seen a lot, is new people to the car culture who do not have the experience or the knowledge or know-how that some other people have. And some of these people come in there asking some simple questions that all they need is a simple answer. And a lot of times they just get smart-ass answers and wrong answers and things that are no good on purpose, just because that's a stupid question. I'm just going to answer smart-ass. And that's not how to be, because you're running off people that are trying to get into the car culture, and it's setting up a bad example. Now, another thing is on social media is, yes, there has always been good advice on the internet. There's also a ton of bad advice. And I'll probably go over some of that advice and make videos on it later. But some of that advice is, how should I put it? It's not thought out right. Some people, well, I do this, so therefore it is right, and that's not always the case. So there's a lot of bad advice, and I'll go through some of that with y'all. Now, TV in the aftermarket, I believe they have a negative effect on the car culture now, from how they make some of the people in the car culture look to some of the, even the pricing of vehicles. And that also includes social media in that, because there's TV shows and auctions where people see these vehicles and they think, oh, well, that went for that much, mine's worth this much. And then it gets to the point where what used to be a hobby for basically anybody who wanted to get into it is now becoming almost a rich man's hobby. And honestly, social media, television is to kind of blame for that. Now, TV has also set some negative influences on how some people behave in the car culture. And I've seen recently more people trying to run around on drag radials and do crazy mods to the car that they probably shouldn't, because some of these people probably can't even handle the amount of horsepower they're wanting to go for. They'll go get this, they've never done this before, they've seen it on TV. They'll try something extremely stupid, a lot of horsepower, and then end up hurting themselves. Stuff like that. Another thing is, with social media and television, is the concept of what a vehicle should be. Now, there's another television show that took a very nice first-gen Firebird. A lot of people, as it sit, would have been a good car. It was a nice looking car. There was nothing wrong with the car. Mechanically, body-wise, nothing. It looked like a good car. Again, a lot of people would have loved to have it as is. But that show had took the car, threw paint all over it, and then smashed the windshield with a sledgehammer. Now, number one, that is extremely disrespectful to the car and the car community, and it's basically setting an example that's not good enough, which is not the case. And those are some negative effects. As well as something with the engine, they were talking about removing the crappy old engine because it's junk and tossing in something else. Even though a lot of people know that those engines can be built. You know, nothing wrong with the old, a lot of people still run older style engines to this day. And it's basically trying to set mindset of people, oh, well, you got to go to this if you want this. Or these are outdated dinosaurs, you need this. And that's the same thing in the aftermarket too, which I'll get to. But that's how I believe television's having a negative effect on the car culture. Now, the aftermarket, it kind of influences what some people build or how they build it. and they use television to help throw this out to people as sponsors or whatever, is, hey, look at this part. Some aftermarket companies have gone more modern because they realize that I can only make so many intake manifolds and so many headers, so many of this and that, before basically people just don't have to buy as much as they used to. Well, there's a bunch of modern engines on the road that are unmodified. So let's try to get people to go this direction, so that they have to buy kits for swap kits, they have to buy headers, they have to buy new this, new that, new this, and everything, so that we can change the way the car culture looks at everything, make them go to this new, something new that we haven't touched yet, so we can make more money. Now, that is how I see it. Some people may not, but like I said, you can only make so many intake manifolds before you have to do something else. You're going to make so many gaskets before you do something else. You can only, I mean, there's limited factors of, as we know, people rebuild their carburetors. People reuse intake manifolds. A lot of times you can just have your heads reworked, reuse your cylinder heads. So eventually sales drop, they have to do something else to make more money. So they try to use television and marketing to get people to say, hey, no, you don't need this no more, you need this, so we can get more of your money. Now, that's how I see the aftermarket's effect on it. Unfortunately, with the aftermarket, I believe they could do probably a little bit more good, but there are some things they still do good. Television, there's still some good shows to watch and all that. And social media, there's still good advice, there's still good groups to be in, but you have to remember to pick and choose, especially on the information you receive, and just remember that if you post something on social media, you love your vehicle, and if people ridicule you, don't take it to heart. I mean, I've built stuff that I've been ridiculed on in social media, and then I get out to a real world car show, some people go, eh, and then some people just love it. You're not going to please everybody with your builds. The person you should be pleasing with your build is you. Build it the way you want, the way you think it should be, and that's how it should be. Now, obviously, again, everyone has their own opinions on how it should be built. So, don't let the negativity from social media, the aftermarket, and television affect your build. I hope you liked this video, and as always, thanks for watching.